Okay, so let's start talking about differentiation. Once again, we'll look at a function of a single variable first because that is something we are already familiar with. Suppose there is a function that looks something like this. So if I'm standing, we are talking about differentiation. Taking derivative means finding the tangent to the the slope of the tangent. So suppose I'm standing over here, I'm at this point, I'm at this value of x0, of x called x0 over here. Over here, what you will find is that the tangent looks something like this, or the slope is positive. What that means is that, so when you're at x0, if you go right, then the function increases. If you are going left from x0, then the function decreases. And these are both equivalent ways of saying that the derivative is positive, or the slope to the tangent is positive. That's why the function is increasing as you go to the right. On the other hand, suppose you are at a point over here, let's call this x1, then at this x1, the tangent looks something like this. Now in this case, if you notice, if you go right, the function decreases, and if you go left, the function increases. And these are both a way of saying that the slope of the tangent, or the derivative of the function over here, is negative. And then of course there will be some points where the derivative will be exactly 0, and those are what we call maxima and minima, because over there the function is not changing, so the derivative becomes 0. So this is simple in if you have a function of one variable, but how does it work with multiple variables? So if I want, so suppose you can think of this as representing the temperature as a function of x. So think of x as being a road, the x-axis is a road, and as you go down the road, in certain part the temperature keeps changing. So there are some parts that are hot, some parts that are cold, and if you know the derivative at each point, then you can tell whether you're going towards a hot place or you're going towards a cold place. But now if we go back to the picture that we had before, where we were looking at the temperature map, how do we do that? Because over there the temperature was not just a function of one x, it was a function of two variables. It was a function of x and y. So once again, assuming the earth is flat, so you have an x coordinate and a y coordinate for every location on the earth, and the temperature keeps changing as you move from one point to another. So what is the direction in which this function temperature increases? What is the direction in which the temperature decreases? So let's look at one a graph that I have plotted. So this is a plot that I have made in Mathematica. The function is given by this over here, cosine of x plus y square minus sine of xy. It doesn't matter what the function is, but that is my f of xy, and I have plotted it over here. So as you can see, depending on what the value of x and y are, x goes from -3 to 3, y goes from -2 to 2, and in this range, so depending on at each xy point, you have a different value of this function, and that is shown over here in this 3D plot. So you can move it around, you can see from different angles what this function looks like. So at every xy point, there is a different value of the function, and that is plotted on the z-axis. So what is shown over here in this as white, that's a very high value of the function. What you're seeing as the blue parts are very low values of the function. So in some sense, this function of two variables, you can think of it as representing kind of the surface of the earth, right? Because this is like you have mountains in some places where it's high, and you have seas in places where it is low. So intuitively, you can think of this function of two variables as a, well. Anyway, we mentioned that the altitude is one example of a scalar field. So that's exactly what this looks like. It's like the height of the land, the altitude, which is given as a function of these two variables x and y. So what I can do is I can try and look at this from the top, something like this. And when we look at a function of two variables from the top, that is exactly what is a map. When you're looking at a map of the earth, this is what it looks like. So there are some parts that are very high and there are some parts that are very low. So that's what I've plotted over here as a 2D contour plot, what it is called. So these white areas are where the value of the scalar field is very high. The blue regions are the places where the value of the scalar field is very low. And now, just as we were doing in the one-dimensional case, the question that I want to ask is, what is the direction that I should go in if I want to go towards a higher value of the scalar field or a lower value of the scalar field? Or if you want to think of it in terms of the altitude, like which direction goes uphill and which direction goes downhill? That is the question you're asking. Now, if you look at this contour plot, suppose I'm standing somewhere over here, okay, at the point where my mouse is right now. Now notice that if I go towards the right, then the function is decreasing, and if I go towards the left, then the function is increasing. That is shown by the color coding, because towards the blue is smaller and towards brown and white is higher. But instead of going left, right, because this is 2D, I could also go up, down. So if I go up, then you can see that the value is decreasing. But if I go down, then the value is increasing. Not just that, if I go diagonally in this direction, then the function remains the same. It is not changing at all. So, and of course, this is 2D. So you don't necessarily just have to go horizontally or vertically or diagonally. There are infinite number of directions that you can go. You can go diagonally like this. You can go diagonally like this, like this, like this, like this. For any angle theta, you can choose a path. You can decide which direction you want to take from here. And that makes things complicated, because as we saw in the one-dimensional case, the derivative was allowing us to decide which way to go if you wanted a higher or a smaller value of the function. But now there is no fixed direction to define the derivative in. Should I take the derivative in this direction, derivative in this direction, derivative diagonally this way, that way? So we have to generalize that idea of a derivative that we had to allow for the fact that there are multiple directions that I can go in. And that is what we are going to start with. We are going to define a kind of derivative which then we can use to find out how the value of this function changes in any possible direction that we might choose. Whether you want to go horizontally, vertically, diagonally, one way, the other way, whichever way you want to go. Our new definition of the derivative, our new derivative operator that we will define, will allow us to calculate that. So let's see how to do that. What we will do is we will define an operator called the gradient. And this is denoted by this inverted arrow. This symbol is called del, or sometimes it is also called nabla. I think I will consistently refer to it as del. Del looks like this. It is I partial derivative with respect to x plus j partial derivative with respect to y plus k partial derivative with respect to z. So if I have some scalar field, call it lambda, as a function of x, y, z, then gradient of the scalar field is going to be the following vector. So it is del lambda by del x I hat, del lambda by del y j hat, del lambda by del z k hat. So you can see that taking the gradient of a scalar field has actually given us a vector field. So gradient of a scalar is a vector, means it has a particular direction. What is that direction? The direction of the gradient is the direction in which the scalar field is increasing fastest. So so for example, in this example that in this figure that we were looking at, we were sitting over here. You might imagine that the direction, so if you go like this, you lambda, the function is not changing at all. But if you go in this direction, then it, at least just by looking at it by eye, it seems that this is the direction in which the increase or the decrease is the fastest. So for this particular function that I have taken, if I was sitting at this point, then the direction of the gradient at this field would be in this direction. If I was sitting over here, where do you think would be the direction of the gradient? I think it would probably be like this, because this is the direction in which, just looking at the contours, it seems that this is the direction in which there is fastest increase. So that is what, but of course, in general, you should calculate it. Given the scalar field lambda, you should calculate exactly what the gradient is, and that will tell you the direction in which the increase of the function is fastest. Let's take a quick numerical example and see how to use the gradient. So suppose I take a scalar field lambda, which is given by 3x square y minus y cube z square. Some scalar field as a function of x, y, z. So let's find out what is the gradient. So gradient of lambda is partial derivative with x, partial derivative with respect to y, partial derivative with respect to z. What is partial derivative of this lambda with respect to x? 3x square becomes 6x and y will remain intact, and the second term doesn't have x, so that goes to 0, plus what is partial derivative of this with respect to y? So the first term gives me 3x square, second term will also give me something. This will give me 3y square z square, yeah, j. And what is partial derivative of lambda with respect to z? First term doesn't contribute anything. Second term will give me the minus sign. Okay, minus y cube, and z square will give me 2z. Okay. So gradient of lambda is 6xy I plus 3x square minus 3y square j minus 2y cube z. Okay. So this is the gradient of the scalar function. It's a very straightforward calculation. As long as you know how to take partial derivatives, calculating the gradient is extremely easy. So this is how you define the derivative for a scalar function when you are sitting in multiple variables. When you have xy or xyz coordinates, here's how you would define the gradient of a scalar. So remember that you started with a scalar field, and if you apply the gradient operator to it, then the resultant of this is going to be a vector field. Here, this is a vector. It has ij, k unit vector sitting over there. It has xyz xyz components. So gradient of a scalar field is a vector. Of course, I could also ask you the question, what is the value of the gradient at some specific point? So suppose I say at 1, 2, minus 1. So when x is 1, y is 2, z is minus 1, then what is the value of gradient lambda? So then I will just substitute the values over there. So I will get gradient of lambda is 6. So this is x, this is y, this is z. So 6 times 1 times 2 is 12. 3 times x square is 1. So that's 3. 3 times y square times z square. Z square is also 1. Y square is 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 2y cube z. Y cube is 8. 2y cube is 16. 16 times minus 1 is minus 16. So this becomes 12i minus 9j plus 16k. So this is the value of the gradient at this specific point. If you want at any general point, then this is the answer. And then specifically at this point, you plug in the numbers and you get the value of the gradient. All right. The gradient follows some of the basic rules of derivatives that you are familiar with from your normal single variable calculus. So for example, so I have some vector field, and if I multiply it by some constant, and then if I take the gradient of this entire thing, then this is just k times gradient of lambda xyz, as you would have expected. Then if I have two scalar functions, and if I want to take the gradient of the sum, so lambda 1 plus lambda 2, then this is just the individual gradients summed up. If you have a product, then this also follows the product rule of derivatives. So this is going to be lambda 1 gradient lambda 2 plus lambda 2 gradient lambda 1. So notice that this is a scalar this is a vector, scalar vector. So when you multiply a scalar with a vector, you will get a vector. You will get a vector. So in the end, what you're getting in the end is a vector. As you expect, gradient of anything, because lambda 1, lambda 2 combined is a scalar. Gradient of a scalar will give you a vector. So it makes sense.